Driving in Port Huron, you'll see a familiar sight: construction, construction, construction. It's common in Michigan. Most of us are used to driving in it and the delays it causes. But most of us are not used to this. Port Huron streets are being ripped apart again, but this time, it's a good thing.
For me personally, it's just another example of seeing that the lives of the disabled in this community and their families are made better.
George Duffy has been in a wheelchair since 1969 and says the curbs in Port Huron were rough to get through, even for him.
My brake was probably mid-level, so I have a pretty strong upper body. But I did go through some of the intersections along 10th Avenue on the south side of town, and it took some effort to get through them. And those were very disturbing, especially for a guy like me. Now, anybody else with a higher brake and less mobility strength would have a problem with that.
These curbs were very dangerous for everyone, especially wheelchair users.
The slope was way too steep. You would have very limited control if you were a manual chair user because it's going to take you down at such a high rate of speed. And then when you got to the bottom of that, you had these lips and bumps where you actually could get your wheelchair caught in it. And a lot of times it would cause damage to the chair. At worst case scenario, people could flip out of their chair and be injured.
In 2008, the Blue Water Center for Independent Living filed a lawsuit against the city of Port Huron for not following the guidelines set by the Americans with Disabilities Act.
We were seeing in some places curb cuts were being put in, but they weren't usable. They were being put in incorrectly.
The Americans with Disabilities Act set clear accessibility guidelines for public property, including sidewalks, in 1993. Since then, the entire state of Pennsylvania has been sued for improper curbs and curb ramps, along with 10 cities in Ohio and Illinois, including Chicago. Only 5 Michigan cities have been sued.
I think it's bad habits. You know, a lot of contractors and city officials have never been in a wheelchair, so they put in a curb ramp and they say, that looks good to me, that looks like all the other curb ramps in town. And, you know, they just get ingrained into that system, and then when somebody comes along in a wheelchair and says, I can't use that, you know, they have to be forced to build them right.
Safety and accessibility for all is the goal. Renovated curbs can increase quality of life and therefore increase the city as a whole. For Focal Point, I'm Katie Masters.